So in this final beginners session, we will be looking at using JSON with LiveCode apps. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's a language-independent data format that was originally derived from JavaScript, but most languages can now generate and parse JSON format data, including LiveCode. So it's a minimal human readable format for structured data. It's self-describing and easy to understand. It's text only and it can be written and edited by hand. It can be used as a data format by any programming language. And it's a very common format used to transmit data between a server and an application. So why would we choose to use JSON? So when you're exchanging data between an app and a server or a browser and a server, the data can only be text. So since the JSON format is text only, it can easily be sent to and from a server, and it can be used as a data format on its own. So not coming from a server, but actually stored in a local file, in a JSON file, by any programming language. So LiveCode has built-in functions to convert between JSON strings and LiveCode arrays. So it's also a really useful way if you've got data in an array and you want to save it out to file, then you can actually convert it to JSON. So you can convert it to text and save it to a file that you can then actually read and edit if you want to. Of course, LiveCode has the array encode and array decode functions as well, but those will convert your array data to binary data, which obviously you can't read or edit by hand. So if you actually want to store array data in a local file for storage, if you could be a profile of a user, it could be data that your app uses that you want to save in between uses of the app, then converting it to a JSON format and saving it in a text file is a really good way to do that as well. So JSON syntax is derived from JavaScript object notation syntax. So it's sets of name value pairs separated by commas. You can use curly braces to hold objects. So an object in a JSON file can also be a JSON object. And you can store arrays using square brackets. So there are 6 types of data that JSON values can be. They can be strings, numbers, JSON objects, arrays, booleans, or null. So those are the 6 types of data that you can store in a JSON file. So a name value pair consists of a field name or a label or a key followed by a colon and then a value. So the simplest one are strings. So it's just so you open the curly brackets to start your JSON object, you give the key or the name, so that's a string in quotes, and then a colon, and then the value is also a string in quotes. So for example, here we have name colon John, so that key value pair for somebody's name. Numbers are very similar, but the number doesn't go into quotes because it's a number, not a string, so the key is still a string, and then you've got the colon, and then you've got the value. So JSON numbers have to be integers or floating point numbers. You can then store arrays using square brackets. So here we have a staff array, and then we have the list of staff members of the development team, and you can see that those are in square brackets, and each one individually is in quotes, and they're separated by commas. So that would come out as a simple array, just one level deep. And also you can have JSON objects within your JSON file. For example, here we have an employee object within our JSON object, and it has 3 name value pairs, the name, the age, and the city. And those are enclosed in curly brackets. And then finally we have booleans and null. So booleans are either true or false, and again those are not in quotes because that would make them strings. And finally the last option is that you can have a null value as well. So LiveCode includes 2 functions for converting between LiveCode arrays and JSON. So there's array to JSON, which takes a LiveCode array and converts it to a JSON string, and JSON to array, which takes a JSON string and converts it to an array. So the array to JSON function has a few parameters. So it's got the array, it's got the force root type, and it's got the pretty value. So the force root type parameter allows you to tell the conversion to force part of the JSON to be something other than the default. So you can force an array to be a JSON object, you can force a number to be a string. So that allows you to force the type that the automatic conversion chooses. And the pretty parameter tells the function that you want the output to be nicely formatted. So these functions are both part of the merge JSON library. So if you are using it, do remember that you'll need to include that merge JSON library if you want to use these functions when you're building your standalone. Okay, so having a look at array to JSON. So here we have our simple staff array with the names of the members of the development team. And so if we want to convert that to JSON, then what we do is we build our array, and then at the end we just put array to JSON, and then we pass the dev team array into field 1. And if we pass it the pretty parameter, if we set that to be true, then that will come out nicely formatted on different lines and indented. So that makes it a bit more readable. They're both equally valid JSON, just depends if you're going to be reading it, if it's going to be read by a human or edited, then you might want to pretty format it so that it's a bit more readable and easy to see how everything is laid out. And similarly, JSON to array will take a JSON string and it will convert it into a LiveCode array, as we can see with that little screenshot from the variable watcher there. So it'll take that JSON string at the top, the staff colon, square bracket, Stephen Crichton, Heather, etc., and it'll convert it into a staff array that we can then use directly in our LiveCode app.